Today I have this rather business looking machine. Looks like some sort of dictation machine. Saw it in a junk shop for $10 and assumed it was actually a cassette player because I had the end of it what looked like a tape sticking out, so very similar to an audio cassette, but I didn't take that much notice. But it actually turns out a bit wider. But it was jammed in there, so I couldn't get it out. But I thought I might grab it just because it was such an old unit. Very heavy, die-cast side to it, and Grundig brand. And I thought, what the hell, might be something interesting, but it turns out this has actually got a different tape format in it. It's not the standard cassette format. And yeah, we have to actually open this up to get it, but it's possibly one of the rarest cassette tape formats ever made. I don't think even Tecmo has done a video on these ones, they're so rare. I do actually have a cord on here already because I've already tried this out, and it does have some mechanical issues, but it's partially working. The other problem is we've got this microphone socket here which has, what is it, about 9 connectors, or 9 pins on it, and it had no microphone with it. There are some on eBay and stuff that may fit this one, they've got a similar plug, but I'm unable to do any more than just, it's basically got this button called erase and rewind, fast forward. I'm not even sure if this button's correct. Most of the ones I can find pictures of on the internet have a red button, and also the fact that this is on the outside, I'm not sure if that's correct or not, but this unscrews. You need to unscrew that to remove the cover. And this one looks like it was actually belonged to University of Tasmania at some stage, so wouldn't have been many people would have bought one of these. I wouldn't think. Would have been rather expensive in its day because there's quite a bit of engineering in this. Much more complicated than a normal compact cassette player type design. It looks like Grundig originally had a reel-to-reel sort of format. They certainly look like a portable reel-to-reel recorder, but the actual tape was like not on a reel as such. It was in a little enclosure, like a little cartridge thing. It looks like you pulled one end out of it with a tape and then hooked it to a reel on the other side, like a drum thing that wound it on. So that was in the 60s by the look of it, and probably was the predecessor to this. In around 1967, Grundig started making the Philips compact cassette format. So I would suspect around that time is when they went to this little cassette format of their own. And there is a 1967 catalogue online on Hi-Fi Archive or somewhere which actually shows this machine with these cartridges. Doesn't show the microphone, unfortunately, which is annoying, so I don't know exactly what sort of microphone it used, which also would have had the record switch and possibly a play switch in it, because there's no way of actually playing this tape. So that's a bit annoying. I've also found in a 1970, I think it was late 1970 Australian newspaper, an advert which shows a picture of one of these, and again no picture of the microphone or any accessories that go with it, which is annoying. So I've basically got this power cord rather dodgily set up here, but I've wired it onto this. There's a motor start capacitor here, which is one of the pins. The plug on it is kind of like an IEC type plug, but it's only 2 pin. And I don't have a plug for that. I was thinking of putting clip leads on there, but that's a bit dangerous because they unclip themselves and stuff, and if they short onto something, you might make the chassis live or something. So I've basically got a bit of insulation tape over this socket because those pins are going to be live when I've got power on it, just to make sure I don't put my finger in there. Probably could do with a little bit of fixing because that tape's come loose. And the other neutral side here I think is hooked to something on the top. Once we get those screws out, this top should just pull off. Or maybe not. I think might have to get the tape out. Now to get the tape out of one of these, if it's stuck in there, you just press on this solenoid here, I think. That was, oh yeah, well the solenoid wasn't pushing on it. This little brass bit that is near that solenoid will actually eject the tape. So that's the format, very weird. It's a single reel. It's got a hole in it much like a reel-to-reel sprocket. It looks like maybe the end of the tape's on that little tab thing there. This is a Stenorette magazine type 600. It shows a little arrow which way it's got to go in. And we have this little thing that we pull out, and it's just like a compact cassette inside. It looks like the same size tape, even got a clear leader tape on it. I guess I could compare that to a compact cassette. but I would assume it'd be the same tape, because it'd be silly if they were getting the tape manufactured elsewhere, even if they've got their own case. Yeah, it looks to be identical width. Even if they've got their own special case here, it would make sense that they're getting TDK or BASF or someone to manufacture their tape. Probably be BASF, since they're Germans, they probably bought them Germany, but they would get one of those companies to make the tape for them, but then they put it in their own little casing here, which sort of imitates the idea with the reel-to-reel one, which has a cassette cartridge thing, and then the machine actually pulls out the tape, or probably with the reel-to-reel one you may have had to pull it out yourself and attach it to the other reel. This one basically has a mechanism in there to grab hold of this and pull it out, and then it wraps it around a big reel inside the machine. And of course that means you can't eject it until you've fully rewound it, and you can't see where you are in the tape, how far through the tape you are. Like with a compact cassette, you can just look at it, whereas this, it's got this dial thing on the front here that advances as the tape goes through. So these are basically, I mean, Stenorette is like referring to stenography, which is like recording the spoken word, like they do on court cases and stuff in a court of law. But they also have the transcription use as well, which is once someone's recorded the audio, like a dictation machine, you can then play it back, and a typist can listen to it and then convert it into type, basically. Listen as they go. They did come with a foot switch, I think, so you could like press down on the foot switch, play a little bit of audio, a few words or whatever, and then a typist could type that on a typewriter onto paper, and yeah, let off the foot switch and pause, and then they'd do the next few words or sentence or whatever that they could remember, and then type that in. So that's the basic idea. One thing I did notice with this, besides these little labels that tell you what the light globes are, a couple of 28 volt and one 7 volt, so it's got these 3 different colours, like traffic lights there, amber, red and green. I also noticed there is what looks like a piece of asbestos stuck to the back there, and I probably should seal that. I'm not sure if it actually is. It's something fibrous. It looks an awful lot like asbestos. I might spray some lacquer or something on that just to make sure. It could be just felt or something, but it's quite soft, so it could be. But I mean, a lot of linoleum products and stuff used asbestos in them, so I'd treat that with caution. Don't want to go getting any flakes of dust off that. So this is the machine inside. Yeah, I've got that's right, the neutral I hooked up. I don't know if it was meant to be active or neutral, but I've hooked it to this fuse holder here. I actually found the original fuse was blown in this little tiny thing it is. I think it was a couple 100 milliamps or something. Yeah, 250 milliamp by the look of it. Odd little, it's not a normal M205 or whatever they were size fuse. The other one here's also got a bit of wire soldered over it, so that's blown at some stage, but there are some issues in this where the motor seizes up a bit and stuff, so that probably just blew from that. I think I put about a 350 milliamp slow blow in there just for the time being. It's also got this light globe. I'm not sure what the purpose of that is. Doesn't show up on the outside. I think that's where that little, so that's what would be an asbestos pad there, because it's above the light globe to stop the plastic getting hot. So I think that pretty much confirms my suspicions, because asbestos was used as a heat insulator. This thing's massively complicated, really, mechanically. Great big motor in it. Lots of solenoids and stuff. There's a couple of, or one switch pod here to switch the power on off. And I think it's for volume, which we'll have to look on the cover again. Yeah, it's got on, off, and tone, loud and soft, so I guess that's volume. And I'm not sure, there is another thing on the side here somewhere, which is definitely a little potentiometer, is it? Or not? It's got 3 pins on it. Actually looks like a slide potentiometer base with a little pot screwed into it. It's a little Bakelite strip there with a few pins, so it's a bit of an oddball thing. And on the upper side here, we've got where our cassette goes in. This is the part that winds it up. This is the lever that pulls catches the little tab on the tape, brings it up, and then this winds it on. There's a little thingy to stop it. So quite an odd design. Lots of electromagnets, solenoids, a great big relay in here with like 6 pairs of contacts, double throat contacts. Another smaller relay there, so very electromechanical. Fully die-cast chassis in this thing. Large motor, which also has this big capacitor to start it up. Big transformer in there. And a couple of smaller transformers, maybe something to do with the audio or something. So I may have to try and work out what the actual connections to this socket are, but chances are it all goes into wiring harnesses all over the place. It might be a real pain to track down. There's also a circuit board here, one screw there and one screw there, and that lifts up, sort of pivots on these little things at the end, but it's limited in range by a wire here. So I guess you could easily unsolder that and get that board to fully hinge up, like to probably 90 degrees to the rest of it. And yeah, there's not too much else to it. There's a big long shaft here with dial cord type setup to run the little needle that tells you where in the tape you are. That does have some issues. It seizes at points. I might just even put a bit of oil or grease on that and might get that going. And also from memory, when you go to eject this or something, there is a point where you can see the motor fan stall and that light dims and stuff, and it's not too happy. But when you switch it on, that must just be a power light, that first one. I think it's the green one. Yeah, green indicator. Motor's running. There's a fan on the motor down there. If we put this tape in it, I think it just grabs it. Or do we have to know? Maybe we have to do something with it. That's that erase button, so I'm not sure. If we push that down, it just seems to stay down. So when we do the erase button, we get these other two lights, the red, the orange and the green. No, orange and red. Yeah, oh, orange and red. The red one's actually got a telephone handle symbol on it. Didn't realise there was any symbols on these. So what the telephone handset symbol means, I've got no idea. I get a feeling this should be screwed on it and the cover put back over it, but not 100% sure. Obviously be careful with this because there's live fuse holders and stuff. It's all 240 volts and stuff. So you've got to be rather careful when this thing is not earthed. So it could potentially go live if something shorts to the chassis or something, so you've got to be fairly careful with it. I think if we press one of these buttons, that actually ejected it. With the fast forward and rewind buttons. Oh yeah, we've got the tape on there, although I just spewed a little bit out then. And it's actually leaving it loose. Oh, is that because I've messed this thing up? Possibly. Oops, now we're chewing the tape up a little bit. Better not do that. Let's try rewinding it. That's not going to work. Doesn't seem to be grabbing the reel this time. So it's a bit different to when I last tried it. I've actually managed to chew the tape up a little bit, which is not good. Yeah, that'd be right. Now there was, how did I eject this? I don't know if there was a way of getting this to eject the tape, but I might have to actually try and get that tape sorted out because it's made a mess of it this time. Might just have to unwind it and yeah, it's gone off the reel a bit there. I think we've got back to the beginning now. Have we? Oh no, it's still a bit caught up in there somewhere. So they're quite an odd design in that they pull this tape out. That tape's actually got something written on it. LGS 26 E260E, I think. So that's another thing I didn't notice before. So what has it done here? Oh, so it's the later part of the tape is chewed up under there somewhere. Ooh, this has made a right mess of it this time, so I didn't do that last time. That's a real pain. So I did have a good cassette for it, but not so good anymore. Oh, it's actually chewed through the tape, and that's annoying. So I'm going to have to splice that back together by the look of it. Always what happens, you put it on camera and it does something else and ruins everything. Yep, that's it, that's in the cassette part. Yeah, it didn't seem to load up quite properly then. I better not pull this too far or it'll disappear inside the case. the worst of it in there, so it looks like I'm going to have to splice that back together. But it does work, grab the tape rather effectively. Oh, there you go, it is BASF. It actually says BASF printed on it there. BASF LGS 26 E260E. Didn't realise they actually printed on their tapes, but there you go. And some little symbol there. Oh well, there you go. I don't know if I can actually get this original splice to peel off and be reused. That would probably be the ideal way to do it, but otherwise I'm going to have to... I don't think that's going to... it's on both sides by the look of it. So I may just have to use a little bit of tape or something. I assume that rolled up that way, so that must be the top of it. So that's a bit more than I intended to do with it. I'll just cut that with some scissors. Trying to get it square. Not going to matter too much in this situation, because I don't care about recording on it or anything, or saving an original recording. Come on, scissors. That seems a bit like it might be twisted, but I don't think so. It would be easy to get that twisted inside here probably. I guess if I can get the sides... I don't know which side's got the stuff printed on it now. Oh, there's the printed side. Yeah, that makes sense, because the printed side would not be the side that we're playing on the heads, and it's this other face that goes across the heads. Ugh, so it's just trying to twist itself every opportunity it gets. So I can see why this format didn't really take off. These are just designed to probably chew tapes and stuff. Toss that in the rubbish. Not the greatest format in that sort of sense. Yeah, can I get these onto something? I'm just going to have to use a bit of sticky tape or something just to join that. For the time being, I don't have any splicing tape anymore. So it's a case of just cut a little sliver of this stuff, which is not ideal by any means, but as long as it's on the side that the heads aren't touching, it should be okay. And as long as it's not sticky enough to stick to any other part of the tape or the machine or anything, I'll have to hold it on the other side and try and cut a thin strip if the scissors were actually cut without making a mess of it. Yeah, they're just pretty crap scissors when it comes to precision. I might even halve that. There's one bit a bit wider, so we'll get rid of that. Now we're in business. If I can just get it to attach to the tape straight. It's probably still a little wide. And I've only got a small amount of overlap now. Oh, I did that on the right side, didn't I? Get this right. On the back of the tape, and you butt the two pieces together. It's not that picky because it's only an audio head. Video head's a lot more picky because they're so fine. You don't want a chunky bit of tape or overlapping bits of tape for it to hit, ideally. Okay, so maybe I stuff something up when I... Oh no, it does still lock in there. So back in the on position. That laces it up. So we've got the little... Ooh, I just touched it and dropped it out, of course. Just what I don't need. Oh, interesting, when I turn that, this light comes on, that one goes off. But the little spool, the little catch piece is in the end there. Yeah, that's laced up alright. I might just put it back to that stop position. Where on earth is it? Oh, there. Oh no, this thing does stay up when it's in this mode, so they must take that braking thing off. And now it's working alright. So this bit's catching here, that's meant to be the little dial thing. If I push on that, it will start advancing along the front here. That little red needle, now it's hit another spot, you can hear it clicking. So this is just winding all that tape onto that reel there. I'm just in the fast forward mode. If we go to rewind, it does actually lock in rewind. It should go all the way back until it's, the little dial's going back. It's probably out of whack now because yeah, it's hit the end anyway. And that fits back into there, and then it automatically will eject. So that's the only eject function on this, I think, is you've got to rewind it. I guess makes sense, you can't eject it during any part of the tape otherwise. So they've designed it so there is no eject button. So you've basically got to be able to power one of these up to get it to eject. I might even put a little, maybe some oil will do for now, just on that, oops, that shaft there, probably a bit too much. Where's some paper towel, just gather up some of that before it drips everywhere. As long as there's a bit on there. Oops, I've got a drip there. Don't think I'll worry this thing too much, it's pretty mechanical, but best not to have oil where you don't want it. Let's try it again. That's sort of sitting right, I think. So the first press of that button, yeah, loops it in. And so you think we get that sort of, where the transformer hums and the light goes off and the motor stalls. So something's not right. If I give that a bit of a whine like I did before, does that, seems to work after that, so very odd. You know, this thing's, it's moving a bit better on its own. It's clicking, but it's managing to get going again by the look of it, until it gets to there. So maybe some other issue with these pulleys and stuff that this runs on. Yeah, it's jammed again. Or the actual bit that grabs the threaded rod there might be faulty. I guess I should disconnect that part from the threaded rod and see if I can actually move this thing, because it may have tight pulleys or something. Yeah, they're quite tight, I think. Yeah, they're all probably not the greatest. So I don't know how much tape this thing actually has in it, or what happens when we get to the end. I wonder how it detects, does it have a light or something to detect the end of the tape when it's fully wound on? There's quite a bit of tape there. Hopefully it won't break it at the end or something. So that whole case must be pretty full. Ooh, I can hear something that makes a weird noise. Ah, that's that little buzzer. I noticed there's something that looks like a buzzer. Yeah, that thing, I think there. I thought that electromagnet was a buzzer. Yeah, it's just a buzzer. Just telling us we've reached the end of the tape. So there may be a sensor somewhere. Well, I don't see any other lights. So then we can rewind again. Now the actual head is down in here. There's some brass pins, like tape guides, and then there is a head, I think, under about where this hole is. Just a mono head, I guess. Okay, so our thing's wound back already. Yeah, I thought that a little electromagnet, the only thing it could be is a buzzer. So unless, oh, is it this? It's not this light bulb here is used to send a light to something, is it? Oh, I didn't see any leader tape there, so not too sure about that, but it must have some way of detecting the end of the tape. So you can just force that along a bit there. And it's already hit the end too early. Stop short. Yeah, then it makes that sort of overload sound. Oh, well, that did work. See, the head's down in this slot. Don't know if you can see again, just about there where my finger is. There's a bit of a shiny surface there. That seems to be a head. Looks like a normal cassette head with a sort of convex face on it. Guess it would be interesting to pull that to bits. Have a look. It's a brass coloured one though, not your normal stainless steel sort of colour. But I can't see any other sensors there. So unless there's some other way it detects the end of the tape. Yeah, it's interesting, but it does set a buzzer off. But that's interesting too, that it's not the happiest. So it'll load it, and then in that mode it goes into that motor stall. Light dims and stuff, which is weird, but if I there's nothing stopping it, so there's something, that light changes and that light changes when I do that. And some sort of solenoid or something operates. So I've got that light on and nothing on the front, so that light isn't just a power light. Ooh. Now we're getting into that. Oh, that's because I'm doing it. Oh, so you can run that without a tape in there. Now it's not doing anything. Oh, it's locked again. I've never even tried it without a tape before. So that does the load, which has gone loose, which is not ideal. So it is getting a little vicious there. And it's not until you go into wind it a little bit that it... So maybe it doesn't like fast forwarding. So again, it's able to detect the end of the tape somehow. Yeah, so something, I didn't think it was that loose before, but maybe it was, but it's almost like there's a brake or something's not working. So maybe you've got to press the play button at this point and that'll wind it on a bit. Although now it's, oh yeah, the light's out and this light's on. Then it will allow you to fast forward again, so... There's something else here rattling away. That locks in place. And then it jams at the end of the tape for a bit until another solenoid releases or something. Let's try Now I've got it jammed some way. Never did that before. That's that button down. So it's got a few weird things about it. So that's loaded again. And that time I press it and it does put the light on and go into play mode. It doesn't seem to lock in the fast forward mode. Whereas it does, oh that's this solenoid at the front here, locks it into the rewind mode, then it stalls the motor before releasing. So rather an odd design. I think I did have to do something here to get this tape's kind of tight going in. Yeah, now it's, oh no, it locks and then it works. So it's got a few issues with it by the look of it. A few mechanical things which, given the age of it, and it probably hasn't been used in, you know, could be 30 years or something. It's not surprising it's got a few issues. See, that's put a great big loop of tape, so that must have been how it chewed at that time. It's just let the tape hang out. And this is a bit iffy the way it's sitting in here. Yeah, then it goes in that sort of stall mode and then it hits eject and the sprocket bit drops down. So when we push this in, the sprocket comes up through the tape. I can see something moving here that seems to be related to that. Yeah, leave it. Oh, that's actually nice and tight this time. So that brake, oh, is it the brake? No, it's not the brake there. But now I can't get it. It's slowly rotating, but maybe it's, oh, this whole mech's moving around, which, yeah, that might be the issue. But this time it hasn't actually dropped the sprocket out of the tape. Sure, I saw something move here that looked like it was related to that. Ooh, probably shouldn't short that contact to the chassis, but if I push that down, so that's probably a bit seized. Forget there's bare contacts there, so that's what happens when you short that out. Surprised I didn't blow a fuse. So definitely some mechanical issues with this thing. This deck seems to move around a bit. I'm not sure it's meant to hold that in place. But massively overcomplicated for what it is. You can see why a compact cassette would be a much better idea. It hasn't fully popped up. So maybe it's something to do with this loose tape has got something to do with the sprocket there not loading up properly. Don't know. Wasn't fully into the tape. Yeah, that's very iffy even with a bit of oil on there. I ejected properly that time. So maybe it's that one that is the eject. Nothing you can really touch in here without risking touching voltages and stuff, which probably aren't dangerous ones, but oh yeah, this, yeah, okay, so when this is pushed in by the cassette, there's a pivoting on a pivot there, this lever part of it there, and part of it where my screwdriver is, and this spring that lifts the sprocket up. So that seems to return alright. It's got a nice big spring on there. And something moves over the other side here. I'm not sure what that's doing. Guess we'll look underneath this thing. Ooh, that doesn't sound too good. It moves this bit as well. So that is related to that, how you eject it. And I think, yeah, does that latch somehow? Because this solenoid's involved as well. If that's in, does that release? Oh yeah, that releases this other little, moves this bit. Does that release something though? Oh, that must hold. Doesn't seem to hold that in place. I thought it did. So all this probably needs lubricating. These pivot points and stuff. With a bit of oil and grease, it'd probably go again alright. Only problem is I've got no way of actually, I don't know what the microphone connections and switches that go with that are. That could probably even do with the lube. That bit's not bad. The other thing is this whole mechanism seems somewhat loose. Why that would be loose? Seems to pivot on a screw over in the corner here maybe. Don't know why you would have that as a loose assembly. I can understand all these other bits pivoting on it, but why would the whole cassette thing move? Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I think that's all on a pin in this corner, which is quite a strange design, and there's actually a spring to it, and why would you want the whole cassette deck part to move? Very odd. Can't see any reason for that being loose, but yeah, it seems odd to have that sprung just on one corner by the look of it. I mean, maybe to reduce vibration or something. I can't think of any other reason you'd do that. And this bit is stiff somewhere. Something on this is... these pulleys aren't too bad. I would have thought they're loose enough, but oh, that one's... oh no, it's just the string pulling on it. So it's also possible this little bit that meshes with this threaded rod here has got something iffy on it. Someone's dog isn't happy. Yeah, I think they're alright. wheel to run the... Oh yes, there's basically just a brass pulley on the motor above the fan, which... Is that a rubber wheel or something? There's some sort of rubber wheel, and then another brass wheel, then this big rubber rim around this drum part. So they've survived fairly well by the look of it. And then that's probably feeding down into this other gear that runs the threaded part to run the dial indicator thing. And then we have this mic socket, which I bet is all just wiring. It looks like it is, just goes up through harnesses and stuff. What in God's earth have we got there? Look at that erase switch, fast forward, rewind. So, I mean, you think there'd just be two contacts for a microphone itself. They're all labelled A through to I think. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It should be H. Oh, maybe that's H and that's I. And trust the Germans to do it weirdly, that's for sure. Have a quick look at this board. This has got a funny long screw here. Again, another bit of, I guess, German engineering there. Odd way of doing it. Oh yeah, I can see it looks like we've got an amplifier board in there. Might even be worth disconnecting this. Very old school transistors in here. Some sort of weird European ones, I guess. So yeah, it looks like a lot of European stuff. It sort of looks more primitive than it is. This looks more like 50s technology or something to me. Though I guess the fact it's got transistors in it precludes that, but the whole thing looks very old compared to like a Japanese thing in the same era. But I guess it's probably just harks back to the earlier reel-to-reel type ones. Oh, here we go. So once you get rid of that wire there, I can actually get into it, so it's not too badly made. It's just, yeah, they should have, you know, I guess they ideally would have put a plug there or something. Looks like an old AEG bridge rectifier in there, little flat metal one. And yeah, some sort of West German capacitors, Valvo. What are these transistors? They've got weird things like Y12 written on them. Not sure what that symbol is on them either. Is that Siemens maybe? It's like an S and an H intertwined there. What's it? Y12? V12? Sounds like a German rocket. So either a Y or a V and 12. I think that's all those transistors have on them. There's another one here with a different... That's an AC181, sounds a bit more like a Euro transistor. Very weird looking old trim pots. An old OA160, I think, diode there. And yeah, we've got some TA5 type transistor outputs there. I guess there's some sort of amp. What on earth is that thing? Is that a diode? Or a capacitor? Or KT1800? It says C23 next to it, or is that might be C21. Looks like some sort of pot core, so maybe that's a bias oscillator for record. Another transformer thing there. But we've got a few shielded cables here. The question is, do any of those come back to our socket here? That would be a dead giveaway. That's the socket down here. So we might be able to measure some voltages or something there. We've got wires looped together, two yellow, two blue. A blue and a green on that pin, a white. Yeah, I can see a shielded cable there. That looks like it goes to a couple of pins, so that's probably our microphone. Unfortunately, it's all hidden behind every piece of wiring here. There's actually two shielded cables come up to one pin. Is there another one there? What is that? Actually, yeah, there might be two pins with shielded cables. That'd be right. So the N2 pins have shielded cables. That's ground. There must be a ground on this. Geez, that wire's been damaged a bit maybe from the factory. So shielded cable, they are on that H and I pin, is it? Yeah, whatever those bottom two are. But that's not the ground, there must be another ground pin somewhere. So that's just the shielded bits. Is that that's the ground there, goes to... I don't think I can even remove this socket to make it any easier. I don't think there's enough wire length. I can't see which pin that ground goes to. I guess the easiest way is going to be with a multimeter. And just beep some of this stuff out. Is that, well, that is ground, I think. Yes, that's ground. So one of these over here somewhere. So that's A, B, C, D, I think. Very hard to read. Yeah, that would be the D. So it's the second one from, yeah, the top end on the B, etc. one. That one looks to also be Earth, so that kind of... So these two bottom ones are some sort of shielded cable. I mean, it's not going to be stereo or anything. Ground, seemingly ground, and ground again. Even one of those shielded cables is going to ground. That's a bit of a worry. Possibly because it goes through a pot or something. I assume I've got a low ohm. Yeah, 1.1 ohms to ground. That seems a bit... Unless it's a pot turned to minimum. Oh, that ain't much of a shielded signal cable, I don't think. Nothing would be 1.02 ohms, surely. So that shielded cable, it comes back in this direction, so it may well go to one of those pots. What's it look like? One of these greeny things, oh, they go everywhere. Oh, of course there's a relay. So that big multi-contact relay is probably shorting there. It must be switching audio or something. And that's probably the audio out of it into our amplifier board. Oh, what a nightmare. Without a circuit. So it could be that that's muted or something. It's purposely shorted to ground until that relay fires. And the relay's probably not going to fire until we... I wonder if that's that... Oh man, that might be that black and white cable there going to the... Oh, that's to a contact. I thought that went to the relay coil. There should be a pin on this connector, I guess, that goes to the relay coil. But the problem with these AC sort of circuitry... Ooh, just like that. So that yellow-brown one, maybe. So one of these probably has a voltage, or is a ground, and shorts the relay coil. Oh, so even that's such high resistance. Ah, so that's bigger. So it looks like pin A, is it? Ah, the one... Hold up. Pin A likely switches this relay. So I can measure the relay and see if there's a voltage on it, or if there's not a voltage. If there's a voltage on it, it probably has to go to ground. So pin A probably gets us into record mode, maybe. I doubt the other side's going to be connected to anything here. Oh, it is. Seemingly both relay coils. It's a grey wire. That grey wire is moving this one over here. Well, sorry, I should go into resistance mode because that's probably going to measure short anyway. Hang on. Yes, the pin A. Yeah, that's going through the relay coil, I think. Oh no, it's very low resistance to this side of the relay. which is this grey wire, which I assume is this grey wire, which is this grey wire, goes to those switches. So I haven't actually checked if that relay's getting switched yet. But we're getting somewhere. Then we've got a blue wire here. It goes down a bunch of blue wires back that way, so maybe that's... oh, of course we've got sockets on the back too, haven't we? So that might duplicate... What are these sockets again? Tape recorder? Surely not. Telephone. So I think there is a telephone adapter thing so you can record off telephones. It looks kind of like the Philips tape symbol, but whether that is, who knows what that is. I guess one thing I can do is see if that blue-white wire has something to do with that. So that's the second pin down that side. That's ABC, I guess. Seems to be connected to that in some way. So that goes to a pin on this back socket, so that's C. That's our blue-white wire. Don't ask me what it does. And that also goes across in this harness to who knows where. And then we've got this white-black wire. Was that the one that went over? That wasn't the one that went over to the relay. I can see one coming over here. It does go over to a relay contact, so maybe that's that one. Oh yeah. So that's A, B, C, D, E technically. Third one down on the side closest to the bottom. Comes over to a relay contact here. That's that black and white one by the look of it. And that doesn't, it's not shielded, so it must switch or be switched by something. I wonder how these contacts are wired up. Probably switches between this yellow and this green or something. And we do have a green something here, which comes up towards the front, or maybe to this bundle of wires here. And that is a lot of the wires. What have we got? We've got blue blacks as well, which go into the wiring harness. One heads back that way, of course, one heads to the front. Can't, so there's a blue black right there, going into this fast forward switch thing. So I guess that maybe some of these may duplicate buttons on the... Yeah, that's connected to that. So we've got a button, I guess, to put it into record mode. I don't know if this has any sort of playback mode. There's also the potential of, what was it, some sort of pause mode, a foot switch. So yeah, it's quite a complicated thing to try and work out. Whoops, we dropped a light bulb out here somewhere. Ooh, with my messing around, I've messed up the light bulb holder here. Where does that go? Through a capacitor by the look of it, so that's got to be our audio input. I guess the only other thing is we don't actually have a speaker in this thing. So maybe that speaker looks to have an amplifier. I guess I should have, before I put it back together, checked whether that looks like it's a speaker output. So yeah, no pictures of any accessories for this thing, which is really annoying. But I've got enough there, I could almost probably hook a mic up, but I'm still none the wiser as to what actually puts it in record mode. Let's have a look at that relay in this thing too. Does it actually switch? Nope. Well, I guess without a tape in there it's not going to. That load? Nope. The tape has failed to flick in there for some reason. Mustn't have locked in. Yes, there's a little pole thing here that catches on the tape bit and starts pulling it out. I can do it by hand. And then it's got it over to here. So what does it do then? That, I guess, takes it from there, does it? That brings it across, and that's going to hit on there, so that ain't going to work. Maybe that's in the wrong spot. what catches on it? Oh, is it, I think there's a white thing there. I wonder if that's part of it. Oh, so that comes up in here and pulls that bit. Oh, here we go, and it's pushing it in. Oh, yeah, and there's something, it falls down this little slot. Quite a clever mechanism, that. Oh, we just actually rewound it and ejected it. So it didn't like that. Maybe that's its default thing at power up. That's got it, but with a lot of loose stuff. And the thing's definitely through, so I don't know why it sometimes put so much loose tape there. That relay down there doesn't seem to be doing anything. And still not doing anything. So definitely need a different button. So I don't know what the default state of this is. So it would just be you push the tape in and it just sits there. Maybe when you hit play we get that lace up thing. And if we press the record button on the microphone, I guess that would probably flick this relay and do whatever. Oh, back to not being happy. If I press on that, it's actually continuing to go. Oops. Now trying to chew a tape again. Yeah, I've never had it keep running in that mode. Well, it won't lock in the fast forward mode. Turn it on there and it's just sitting there. Yeah, that's locking in now. Oops, now it's stopped again and loosened the tape everywhere. Oh, this is actually semi in eject mode. So what on God's earth is going on here? Try not to electrocute myself on anything. Very odd. Yeah, the actual... it's going to go under the bloody thing again. So it's got some intermittent fault. This tape is not sitting in there properly. The relay's failed to lift up, so I can actually take it out, even though it's not in... now I've pushed it back in, it's starting to lift up, but it's... I guess we've got to rotate this to get the reel to line up. Whoops, there's that bloody contact again. Oh, that's it, now we've got it. So it actually tried to lace it up. Ooh, something's got chewed again. Oh, this thing's been annoying as. Hopefully that'll clear that out. Oh, now we're in trouble. Wrecked the bloody tape again. So this thing is having some issues now. I guess that's never gonna... What's it gonna do? So I wonder how it must detect the end of the tape somehow, or do we just have to stall it? Whoops. No, we can't do that. Although it should have detected the end of the tape if it's because of clear tape. I wonder if it presses on something like this as a tension thing. Must be something here. Nope. But anyway, that's ate my tape. Okay, so this is actually a bit of the tape looped over the edge here and got cut again, so I've got a bit of tape stuck on the reel here. Managed to get the other tape out, but that's gone back inside the case. So I guess that's a good excuse to actually open this thing up and see what's actually inside this. And because this is a normal cassette format, I can probably salvage that bit that's on the reel there and been cut off, which I'll have to get it off to get the end off it anyway and put back on this one. But I can probably try putting it in a cassette case and see if I can play it in a normal cassette player. Now these could run at any speed and stuff, so it could be completely different. But chances are the audio will generally be similar in its tracks and stuff to a compact cassette, especially since these were made around that time. Whoops, we've got a loop around there still, sticking to it with static or something. But that's what's inside, so it's just a large reel of normal audio cassette tape by the look of it. Yes, it must loop around and come up around that little roller, I guess. Assume that's how it went. So a couple of little pins, unless it went through like... I don't think I would have gone through that. Oh yeah, there is like a spring and stuff on the other side here. That's just to hold that little end bit in, I guess. I think that went in there basically. Or did it go around the other side of that bit? So the tape most likely just comes around. Get back on there. And out through that maybe. A little metal bit there too, which I'm not sure what that does. Got the usual little slippy stuff like in an audio cassette, just to let the reel give it something to slide on, I guess. Not sure that copper thing was sticking out like that before. That doesn't seem right, so I reckon that must... let's see. Because that was originally up in here. So is that sprung under... There's another little pin there to kind of hold it. Holds it round that bit. Because it sort of shot out, so I reckon it was sitting on that little pin there. Now that bit's pulled up as well. So is there a little pin here? There is a little pin there. Probably easier if I put it back together all on the same side. So that's a little tiny pin just in there near the hole. So I think this is meant to clamp in between this little piece sticking out there and yeah, that little pin there. So it just holds it with a little bit of tension. I assume this tape just comes out like that. Probably no reason why it should be any different to that. I guess we've just got to get the pin on this top bit in the same position for that little... Yes, that little copper thing's just held in place. And it's just enough that when that little end piece that the machine grabs comes back, it just sort of holds it in place and can't just come out loose out the end. I guess if these things are moved around or whatever, transported, it holds that little plastic bit just in there so you don't come back and find all the tapes fallen out and looped up and got damaged. So there's another flaw with this design is, but I guess with any tape, if it gets broken, it's going to suck back inside the case. So yeah, I'm just going to splice that bit back on there again. So it's the shiniest side of this tape is the one that is the back of it, the very glossy side. I guess the next fun part is trying to unwind all of this. Let's get rid of that thing out of the way. I might have to hold that down. I guess I should wind this onto something. See there again, that's what happened last time. It dropped over the side there, and probably when it came round to the wheel there that presses on this rubber ring, it's sliced it off or something. There's going to be many meters of tape here by the look of it. I'll just pull it off and put it in a pile for now. But what I could do is easily put this inside a compact cassette case and play it and just see if there's, I don't know if there's anything actually on this one. It could have been erased before they got rid of it, or it could have the last recording still on it. So it could well play, even if at the wrong speed. It may well play fine in a normal compact cassette player, but you don't know whether this head covers the whole track or something. But even so, even with the head only on half of it, you'd hope you'd read something similar, but it could have completely different magnetic bias properties and stuff to get the recording down in this machine. I guess there's only one way to find out, and that's to try it. And if I could get a speaker hooked up to this thing, I could potentially either play back this tape that's in it if it has a recording, or put a record onto a bit of this tape and swap it into the other cassette housing. Now we've got a little end bit that we need, and see if I can get something to play on this. So one thing I forgot to do when I had the amp out is I probably should have checked to see where I think the amp output is. So I forget where those transistors were. Well, it should be a copper. Oh yeah, this is the copper bit. So that's our amp output stage there somewhere. So we've got wires there. I guess there's only so many wires probably going to this board. I'll see if I can trace them back to that socket on the back that I assume is the speaker output. The other thing I'm thinking is I was going to check this relay to see whether there is a voltage on the coil or not, because I wouldn't mind energizing that and just see if that gets it into playback mode. I'm not sure if it puts in record mode or playback mode, but I assume it does one or the other. That's the pin that went to the socket. So there's no voltage on this. I'm not sure if one of them is ground as such. Oh, so that was a pin on the... That's actually ground, is it? Let's look at the ohms. That's 100 ohms to ground, so this must be ground on this other side, maybe. Even that's not a perfect ground. So that's 54 ohms to ground, it seems, and that's 100. So I assume that's going through the coil here. Oh, what just happened then? This thing's trying to operate, is it? Is it because I'm connecting to this thing? Rather weird. Ooh, that didn't sound too good. Why can't I measure across this now? Has it got a voltage there? So it's 69 ohms, okay, so there's something between this side and ground. So I'm guessing we need to put a voltage on there. So what we could have is some sort of, I don't know if that's safe to sit on there, maybe. Hopefully it won't do any mechanical operations while I'm on the side like this, but what we can do is check for voltage here. If there's a voltage that would have, the remote would have to switch to the relay. Get off my multimeter. I would assume if it switches that relay, it's got to put a voltage into it, but I'm not measuring anything here. Although, do we need the cassette in? I guess while this cassette's broken, might be a good time to put it in and... might need to tape that there, because if I'm going to fit it, if this thing's going to chew tapes, it's probably better that I just use the cassette housing without tape. Then there's no risk of damage to it. And that seems to be in position. Let's just swing that around. Whether that would alter anything, I don't know, but actually, is this thing actually more than a... No, I think it's just a pin. Almost looks like it's some sort of connector. Pretty sure that's ground though. Doesn't seem to be any voltage here. Tiny amount, tiny amount. So yeah, I'm not sure what triggers that relay. So I actually bent these contacts on this solenoid here, these outer contacts, because they were open, but when this solenoid operates, it actually pushed them open, or was meant to, and the other contacts are open and meant to close. So now what I find is, with a tape in it, this thing goes into like play mode. Actually, I should try and... I can't eject it. I'm not sure how you're supposed to eject it. I can get the tape back out, but of course if that was wrapped around there, we'd have trouble if I did. So now I think comes on with this green light, and that light bulb's out. I mean, this tape's still broken, so it's not actually lacing up or anything. When I put it in, we now get a slow lace up, and it's running slow. It's not running with this big wheel here anymore, it's running off a different gear there. So that would suggest it's probably in playback mode. The relay doesn't seem to have tripped here. So I'm guessing this is possible like in the transcription mode. I don't know, you'd have to pause it with an external thing, I think. The rewind doesn't work. Fast forward tries to work, but that's actually pulling the tape back the other way. So I'm not sure about that. So maybe I have got this in another mode, so maybe that contact there was bent and open and when it shouldn't have been. But yeah, we've still got the problem without a remote. How do I Yeah, I can spit that out, but of course, if the tape was still in there, it wouldn't be much good. It's finally stopped. I guess the other thing I still need to find out, I still haven't worked out how this relay is meant to trigger. But at least I've got, I thought maybe you had to trigger the relay to get it into play mode, but now I've got a slower mode. That would make more sense, that it just goes into play normally. And if that's the case, we should be able to hook a speaker up here somewhere and listen to this thing, assuming there's anything on the tape. And I've got to fix the tape so I can actually lace back up in there. It's also possible we could record something on a normal compact cassette and get it to work on this thing. So that's our, oh no, so there's a transformer on the board. That's got to be our, coming from our amplifier, I'm guessing, to the speakers, one would assume, although there's a lot of shielded cables. There's two, so it's that shielded cable from the relay, two other shielded cables come over here into all that circuitry there. One thing I don't know, if it does have an erase signal, where's the erase head? And then we've got a shielded cable possibly on the outside of that transformer. I don't think they put a shielded cable to the speakers, but who knows. That comes to this, so that comes to this other pot here, which I still, do I know what that pot does? No, not labelled. So what on earth, or is that a recording level maybe? Or why would it come from there? Whoops, I just broke an earth wire off. Are you sure that's the right one? No, it's the wrong cable anyway. So that so that pot is what those two shielded cables there are. So maybe the microphone gets switched to the relay or something. That's the only other thing I can think it could be is a recording level. So it's possible it's a recording level because all the audio is on this board, obviously. There's only electronics in it. So maybe that's a microphone preamp type setup. Possibly your bias and erase here. So yeah, well, I don't know where the head's actually connected. We've got some white shielded cable there. That's one thing. Another thing I haven't checked is where on earth does the head connect to? I'm seeing a lot of this other relay wired up around where the head is, so I don't know if that's related. And there's a couple of other wires here, shielded ones, heading in that general direction. So in one mode we must be getting a shielded cable come up here and put audio into this thing. Or would they use the same preamp? Maybe that's why that goes to the relay, is because it switches between playback head and microphone input into this little preamp section, if that's what it is. And we've got a couple of wires, a green and white and a white. I don't think they go to that back socket, but something around this back socket must come back into this amp board somewhere. Bridge rectifier. I've got a white wire goes across to that one. Blue, black, yellow. Oh, that goes to the bridge rectifier. Actually goes to the positive side of the bridge rectifier, I think. Unless this is meant to be switching. Ah, I wonder if that's foot switch or something. Maybe that's not the speakers at all. Who would know? Does that have another connection on it? It does. I think that blue wire is on there as well, or is it to the white wire? I think all those pins are soldered together. So that pin there goes to nothing. The next pin goes to blue-black wire, which comes up into the wiring harness and could go absolutely anywhere. But I can see it comes around this side of the harness. I saw a blue-black wire before, is it? Oh, yeah, I wonder if that's that one. Maybe that's the missing voltage I'm looking for. Maybe you've got to loop something through here. Oh man, it just gets messier by the minute. But that's the problem with electromechanical things like this. They're so overly complicated, and everything tends to measure as joined to everything else if you're not careful. So that's a blue-black. Does it come back to our blue-black, which is... Ooh, it does probably. So that's probably meant to be our voltage pin. So we probably need a link from... Are they all joined together or not? No, the blue one's definitely separate by the look of it. So the blue wire comes this way as well. It could be that blue wire that comes to the harness here, I guess. Where does it go to? This green wire. Probably is by the look of it. So the blue wire on the, I guess, upper pin on the right of that one comes back to this green and blue, which is FG or something. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It would be the fourth one down on that bottom row towards that round socketed thing. So I think that's joined to that other one. So possibly that can get switched to the voltage as well. Looks like this blue-black one. I wonder if that, did that blue-black one go back to the relay or anything? Oh, it won't directly go back, will it? Oh, it goes to the side of that. Seems to be connected to the relay there. So yeah, maybe if we hook voltage through there, from this other pin of this back connector we get a relay operation. Yeah, it's hooked to that side of the relay, so I assume this other side would be the more earthy one, but I thought that one was connected to ground more than the other one. Or maybe neither of them are. Well, that's a worry, because if the relay is not connected to ground, how on earth does it switch on still? Yeah, there's no... Unless there's another switching... Probably some other thing's got to be switched somewhere. Just to make life difficult. Where did that earth wire come from? Was that here somewhere? Looks like it might have been there, don't know. Is that ground? Yes. I'm not actually sure where I ripped that black wire from, which is a hassle. Yeah, it goes to the earth of this transformer by the look of it, and earth is shielded cable, so it's probably all joined back to earth anyway, so it probably did come from that terminal. Wow, talking about complicated. So I'm guessing if I turn this on, I'll make sure I'm not shorting anything out here. We should have a voltage on that bridge rectifier, and we don't. That'd be right. What the hell's the chance of that? I've got this thing turned on, haven't I? Well, it sounds like it's turned on to me. Oh, there's minus 25 volts there. There was. So who knows if this earth reference is even... who knows what they've done. Maybe maybe it's a negative voltage running this thing or some weird... Well, that's the negative terminal out of that bridge rectifier, measures minus 25 volts, so I'd say we might have negative rail here rather than a positive one. Let's look at these caps. Oh yeah, look, the positive of the cap is hooked to ground. Lovely. Yep, there you go, that's the rail. So we're working with a negative rail or positive earth. So if we hook, yeah, that's got some voltage. That just makes life so much more difficult to, you got to get your brain into working in the reverse order for everything. Oh yeah, something happens when I short that out. And it doesn't make that relay operate, is the next. I think that was like the eject relay. Shorting the other pin out doesn't seem to do anything, but that definitely operates something. Still doesn't seem to operate that relay. So explains possibly why the relay isn't connected to ground. Ooh, I hate how it does that. I reckon that relay will be connected to this negative side of this cap somewhere. It's not that either. That's right, I wasn't measuring minus 25 volts, so this is just pretty hopeless without a circuit or even a manual to tell you how this thing's meant to operate. So we can take that connector out of the equation. I think that's something to do with foot switch or something. So this telephone connector is the only thing we've really got left. We've got a capacitor connected to it. We've got a shielded cable that comes back over probably to this relay somewhere, or maybe not. So if that's an amplifier, I assume that's an amplifier. Is that the output of the amplifier through this shielded cable here? What's connected there? Some sort of resistor or something? That'd have to be my best guess. If that's the amplifier section, output transistor here goes to the, possibly two output transistors into the transformer. The other side of the transformer there goes in all sorts of junk down here. So there's two wires that come down this end of the board, one of which seems to go to that, oh no, that's the pot core over there. Something over here which is a resistor, I think. Quite a high value one. Not sure what that's doing. So let's just guesstimate it's that cable there, which goes, I don't know where, but maybe that's the one that comes back to this back socket. Let's have a look. That would mean that comes back to there, which it doesn't. Well, it wasn't going to be that easy, was it? Assume that earth is the same. Even that doesn't seem to be... oh yeah, there it is. So that's not a good sign. I'm not making real good connections here. So where does that cable go? It comes back to... I can follow it to there. Possibly that one. Is it that one or a different one? Maybe that one. Comes back up into all this stuff. So who knows what's switched via these switches or something else. Yeah, the whole thing's pretty much a nightmare of a million wires going everywhere. I guess I could see whether it is one of these ones. Nope. Does this other one go to there somewhere? Oh, that one. That back socket seems to come up to... well, that's part of the erase switch, I think. Which is not really much of a switch at all. It's a weird mechanism. That's what releases it. So what triggers that? Oh, this. No? Oh, yeah. So if you're in erase mode, this solenoid operating to eject the tape or something must... oh, it's just impossible to know what is what. I wonder if that then connects that to something else. It must do, mustn't it? Must connect to one of these other cables here. Another one, I can't even get to half this stuff. When that's down, does it connect it to... Well, that's in erase mode, so what would that have to do with the amplifier? Nothing. Well, there's no other sockets on this thing, unless, again, the speaker... I wonder if you play it back out there somewhere. Now, that's another possibility, isn't it? I guess so. Maybe it plays through the handpiece. Oh, here we go. Oh no, that's the earth, I think. Oh, maybe that's the earth then. I don't think it's hooked to earth. Oh, it is. Well, maybe... Oh, how can it be? It's pretty low resistance to earth, but it shouldn't be 3 ohms. Oh, that doesn't seem right. Let's just reset that. It's not resetting. Oh, that's on. Ah, that's one thing I didn't check, is what is its resistance to earth? 3 ohms. Seems a tad low. I mean, not necessarily, because these are low impedance. That's not much of a transformer, really, is it? Super high ohm. Oh man, this is nothing like what it looks to be, I don't think. I'm not sure that's even a standard transformer. Yeah, well, they made this thing super hard to work out. Yeah, I'm not too sure of the audio setup on this. I might just have a quick look at the heads. I think I'm going to have to take this thing out of the way, so it looks like it's just got a spring and a... Hopefully just a... Oh, put on the wrong end. Spring off that little lug there. And then a circlip here, which I may be able to, if I get a smaller screwdriver. Hopefully I can just prise that up. I don't think I've got a tool small enough. Yeah, you can usually get away without proper circlip pliers. And there's some sort of washer in there. Yeah, I guess if we lift that bit out, so it's that simple. At least that bit's kind of simple. I can probably do with a bit of a lube. And it looks like we just, now I notice another nut there, so I'm not sure this just unscrews as easy as I hoped it would. I was hoping I could just take the cover off this thing, but it is German, so it's not going to be nice and simple, I don't think, but you never know. Oh no, that bolt is something else, so they have actually made this just a cover. I might as well have a look at these heads. I'll be interested where the heads are actually connected to. Well, there is an erase head in there as well. I thought there must be. So that, I assume, is our erase head first. Well, it would make sense that it would be in the first thing in the position, and then it looks like it's got one big head face right across. I'm going to give that a bit of a clean. It's got a bit of muck on it. Come on, metho. Much easier, you just get the whole bottle and use that. So if I clean the muck off this, I can actually see what this head is like. And yeah, a bunch of little brass tape guides there. Quite a bit of wear on some of those. Certainly a bit of oxide coming off the head, and some of it's still on there by the look of it. It's not coming off at all. So it's probably a full width head. Looks like it's mostly brass with like a stainless steel looking bit in there. I can't see anything that's obvious ferrite or anything, but like any little head gaps or anything, it's just a piece of metal. So I guess that's probably the magnetic part maybe, and the rest of it's brass, so it doesn't interact with magnetism. Not sure. I assume these are pretty crude things, but so that's how you get to the head assembly in it. And the other thing I want to know is what kind of wires. That's not even a shielded cable. Oh yeah, there is a white with the red and black in there, plus a blue wire. Or maybe a blue and white. Two blues, plain blues, I think, blue and white, but then we've got this white shielded cable, which I'd say is this. Actually, it might go to the relay, I reckon. Comes up into here somewhere, and there is another white cable which I think goes back up to our amplifier. Yeah, that comes back as I would expect, because it's got to have an erase signal from the bias oscillator and stuff coming So we've got one, all this rubbish in the way, one shielded cable here, the black wire comes to a little terminal block here, the red wire comes over this red wire on this end or near end contact on the relay. Our other black and white sheathed cable, I should say, that comes to these two wires. We've got a black and a red here on these end contacts of the relay. It looks like the earth probably goes onto this little green end terminal. So the black one comes on the end terminal, that goes to another, so the blacks are joined together via this link wire, I think. Why would you put it onto a terminal and then back up a link wire to a relay contact into the other one? That's the stupidest thing ever, when you could have just soldered that wire straight to the other wire on the relay terminal. Oh wait, I see why, because we've got another thing. We've got another wire connecting here to the same point. Even so, you think you just solder them on the relay and save yourselves a terminal, but that's this little shielded cable here, which seems to be this one here, which is this one coming up through here. Is that one? Oh yeah, so that goes to this contact here, which is pressed by what? Either button here. So maybe that's just to mute things. That may just be to mute the signal when we go to fast forward or rewind. That could be as simple as that. It just probably shorts that cable out, so that cable shorts, I assume, to ground. Something like that, so that's nothing impressive or interesting. But interesting that if that relay contact switches, or is that connected to something there? So many wires in the way, that seems to be, is that a link? So it looks like that red one switches to this other one, comes across this brown wire. Well, that's ground. Well, if it's not switched to ground, maybe it goes across to this other half of the relay or something, because there's another shielded cable here. This is where, without a circuit, you basically haven't got much hope. You can track these things down in time, but man, I haven't got enough time to waste on this, I don't think. It's basically a very obsolete piece of equipment. AAN or something written on that. Oh, at least we know where the wires from the heads go. Also, the head itself is actually hooked to the one side to the black, one side to the red, I think. So it's just a shielded cable. The two inners are the head. So because this is almost exclusively electromechanical, everything's just done the difficult old way with switches and solenoids that press on switches, and different functions do different things everywhere. Oops, didn't get that eraser in place. And it's, yeah, right nightmare to track anything down in these things without some circuit diagram to show you what is what. I mean, massively overcomplicated and expensive to build. So you'd have to be a university or something to afford one of these things, or some big corporation. That's why there's so few of them around. And yeah, quickly going to become obsolete when people come up with better ways of doing it, like compact cassettes and stuff. Oh, where did that come from? What's that on there? Must have been where that little clip is on there, I would assume. I don't know if I should bother lubricating that, it's not too bad. That should be back there, I guess, in this mode. I don't know what mode I'm in. I'm not sure the machine even knows what mode it's in at the moment. It probably doesn't really have a mode. Oh, well, at least we know what the heads are like in it. And pretty much what I thought would probably just be a one-track, one-face sort of head that just goes right across the entire tape. because it's only mono and it only goes one direction, so I think you don't change these over. They're not two-sided or anything, so you would just record across the entire tape most likely. Probably the easiest way, just to make a single track head sort of thing. I may have to use some circlip pliers on that. Can't remember if I end up getting any small circlip pliers. Sometimes you can use a pair of needle nose pliers or something and just pull the handles apart to spread that a bit. Seems to be just to get it started. Yeah, there we go. So that one obviously sprung shut more than usual, and I should be able to just push it on with a screwdriver. So yeah, I still can't work out how this amplifier is connected up. Ooh, that bit's now sitting in the wrong spot. What have I done? Oh, I haven't spun it. I wonder if that was meant to swing around. Yeah, the spring. Yeah, the bloody thing should have been. I think I can take it off. Oh, then again, if I take it off, the spring's going to go. Yeah, that should have been spun right round before I put that back together, I reckon. So it looks like that circlip's going to have to come off again. Just when I get the mongrel on there. I think we need to lift that up enough that I can spin this around in a clockwise direction, like so. Yeah, that's still not right. So something. So maybe I'll go the other way. The spring is not sprung. Well, it can't go that way because there's a little slot on the spring. Oh, now I've got it, I think. Maybe I had to go one more time. Yeah, that's it. I think. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, now that's in the position ready to grab our tape when I fix it. So always little things like that to watch out for. But once you fiddle with enough of this stuff, you tend to be able to just work out on the spot just about any mechanical thing how it's meant to work. That's pretty close to on anyway. Yeah, so that's now in the right position. I think that's pretty right, although that's starting to pop off again. I better get that back onto its circlip properly. Yeah, a little spring there. Yeah, so that's that sorted out. I know where the head goes. Doesn't really teach me much more that I didn't know, but worth a look to see how it was made. And we've just got this issue of I'm not sure how this amplifier is set up. I think I'm going to have to unsolder it again. So there's a problem with a lot of this early stuff. They tended to hook the voltages up the wrong way, in other words have a negative ground and all that sort of thing, or a negative rail with a positive ground sort of thing, I guess is what it really is. We've got the positive of that bridge rectifier, I think, is actually connected to the ground, and so what I thought was the ground or negative out of that bridge looks like minus 25 in comparison. Some of these electrodes look like they're leaking a bit on the end, but I checked them with the ESR and I think they're alright. They've just got some weird sort of felt pad type things as the seal, but they seem to have survived alright. So that's got to be the output stage. This other one may well go back to this. Sure enough, looks like it heads to this oscillator coil. So that would be our oscillator transistor, bias / erase oscillator type setup. Yeah, they're coming back to here. Usually I think DC comes in somewhere into the windings, back to the collector, and then back out the emitter through the coil or to ground or whatever. So that's our bias oscillator. That's got to be our audio output. But there's no just simple capacitor coupling here, I don't think. There's a capacitor between the transistors. electrolytic. There's a resistor back here, which is probably the ground, yeah. So this must be the primary. I'm not getting, it's like in the K-ohms, I think, this transformer. It's not a low resistance. Oh, it makes it lower of me now. Oh, so it is nice and not low resistance. That's got to be the primary. It's only low ohmage to that one. And there was a resistor here somewhere. Is that the resistor? That's 1.5k. But I don't know where that other lead goes to is the next problem. So that lead I think is part of the primary or something. Which in that case this would be the secondary, I guess. 197 ohms. That connects to what looks like a, what is it, resistor there? No, it goes to a little capacitor here, which feeds into what? Come on. Into a reasonably high resistance resistor there. Not sure what that's going to do. It comes up into a couple more resistors. There's another capacitor there. I assume that's a capacitor, so we can forget all that rubbish, I think. So we've got two lines. And then we're heading back towards our oscillator circuit. But we've got some other wires here, so that's a good sign. That's one of the lines. What on earth is that component? Two resistors. Comes into all this pad here. Resistors and crap everywhere. That also goes into this polyester capacitor bottle, which, does that come back to ground? No? Ah, yeah, it does, I think. So that's one side of it. The other wire comes back to that, whatever that is. That's this diode looking thing. What is that? Is it just a capacitor? It says it's a capacitor. Why has it got like a polarizing thing? Maybe because it's not an electrolytic. I don't know. That's a weird looking device, whatever it is, but it's not a diode by the look of it. Or is it? Oh, now I've got a 0.130. No, that's just something across it. So actually between those two leads it is. And then we go to this wire, which is the red wire. But that was the, did that go to the erase head? That was the one that came back to the relay, I believe, yeah. Oh, this thing just gets worse by the minute. There's another one of those capacitors here, C16, so they're just a style of capacitor. 0.068, so that banding probably means nothing. Looks very much like a diode with a black band, but who knows what that's for. So hang on, so we must have voltage to the oscillator, I guess. Maybe those other wires. Possibly the head connections. Oh yeah, we've got another side to this transformer comes out here. That goes to the black wire. That, I believe, was ground. Maybe not. Maybe that was ground. No. So it's not ground. Okay. So where's the other wire? That's a ground wire. Does it actually go to ground? Nope. That's the shield cable anyway. And the red one is the next one here. Red. That's what comes back up to this transformer. Or maybe that's the audio out. Maybe that's the erase or something. maybe the erase signal there and there, that goes to that one, which is the black one. So maybe it puts the speaker and the erase signal up the same cable. The only way would be to put an oscilloscope on there and see, I guess. See if we get audio when this thing's in that possible play mode. Now what are these two wires again? They are right over here somewhere. Oh yeah, that'd be the audio, probably the audio head back in, the playback head back into the amplifier over here. Goes through an electrolytic capacitor to this pad, through a resistor over here somewhere. Doesn't really look like a audio input. I'd assume these transistors are related to that. Although, what do we got? Oh, that is a transistor there. Huh. Oh, that was probably biasing voltage or something. Oh, that does go into a transistor. One would assume the base, whether it's NPN or PNP, probably PNP in this thing, yeah, because it's a germanium, so 0.2 volts drop. So yeah, if it's positive chassis or positive earth, then it's going to be PNP circuitry, which is probably why they made it that way. Something a lot of the Sony stuff like to do as well, I think, it was use PNP transistors and positive earth. They certainly come up with some weird looking circuits, which is technically the way it should be really, because that's how the electrons flow. But when you're used to oh, that transistor looks a bit bent. Oh god, that is bent. That doesn't look right. That's just the way they've made it. I think they've twisted all the leads about all over the place. But yeah, when you're used to negative earth and everything off the positive line and NPN, it makes it a bit difficult to deal with this. So we can say for sure that's our input, I would say. And then it's got some sort of, like I say, probably record level control. Goes through here. Where does it go next is the question, I guess. Well, what are we playing? This is the playback head, or is it the record head? Well, it's the same thing. Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends where it switches here, because this has to, of course, has to switch the head between record and playback. So that's what part of what this, most likely what this relay does is switch between record and play mode. So where do the output of these? Is this a playback amplifier that then feeds into this amplifier here? Geez, that joint looks dry there. I don't think it is, that's just bad soldering at the factory probably. Or looks bad. So is this a playback amplifier that then feeds? It does have connections into the other side there. So maybe this is all a preamplifier and then it's feeding across the output transistors. So this is possibly a playback preamp. But then if that's the volume, but I reckon this is a record level, loud and soft. That's probably a record level, this is probably a volume level. So I've been looking at this back with this pot on the side is probably a volume control. Doesn't seem to do a lot, or a volume level switch maybe, I don't know what that is. It's possible that other one is just a record level, loud and soft would make more sense for microphone level than for speaker level possibly. So we're saying, yeah, so I've got back to this red wire is probably our audio amplifier output. And I guess, so what does that connect to at the moment? Does it have to connect to one of these? Well, it won't be ground. Where the friggin' hell does it go? If anywhere. So with the relay not operated, it doesn't seem to go anywhere. Oh man. But that is ground. Surely it doesn't switch it to ground. Can't do, can it? Could it switch it to this other? I might have to take the cover off this thing and press on it. So that would still mean we're not in actual playback mode at the moment. Without that relay energised. It's possible this other relay has something to do with energising that relay. Who bloody knows? So because that doesn't connect to anything, I can't trace it back to the so what, some of these contacts must be joined to each other. Those. So they're the ones that must shut. I can tell by looking at it. Ah yes, so the relay moves across. But that's ground. Why would you can't connect the output to ground? That wouldn't achieve anything useful. Which makes me suggest that's not the output lead. That can't be bloody right. This thing's insane. Well, this splice I just did not long ago is actually like a factory joint now. I can't even get my fingernail under there to peel it off. That's crazy. I would have thought that had just come off easy as, but it seems to have been pressed on so tight now that I have to cut it off. I mean, I knew tape worked as a good temporary repair kind of thing, but I didn't realise it worked that well. So I'll have to put that back onto this bit inside the cassette housing. Oh no! Mongrel ripped off. Oh, you wouldn't read about it, would you? How did it rip inside the bloody thing? Oh, it's got jammed up in here. Oh, when that thing rotated, of course, it would have ripped. Didn't even realise that. Of course, when I ran the motor and I had the end taped on it, it would have just either sucked it back in or ripped it off. So don't tape the end on trying to stop it going inside the case and then hit fast forward, because guaranteed to break it. It hasn't got much choice. Oh well, didn't think of that, did I? A little bit sprung off again. Which side should it have been on? I can never work that out. So it looks like you need the tape on this other side. Where'd that end go? Mongrel things are. So I should have had the tape, should have took the top off, had the top downwards before I worked on it. Actually, I can just suck that back in there, I guess. So yeah, I don't think I've got much hope of working out easily how to get an audio signal out of the unit. Try and get a really nice square cut on there. Not good when your scissors are getting a bit blunt. So that little bit's got to go back in, squeezed in there. Probably shouldn't even worry about it, just the other way around. What a great tape design. Yeah, probably not much point, but anyway, I've got the tape back out. Is what my aim is at the moment. I'll put that back together, hopefully. And I've got to push that back in a bit, because that get that behind the pin on the top half. At least I've got the tape back out. So yeah, amazingly that sticky tape really did the job well. And this doesn't even have a pinch roller or something. I don't know why that stuck on so well, but it did. So much so that I actually thought it was so thick that you could kind of catch it with your fingernail easy enough, but that was pressed on like the original splicing tape, like it was ultra thin. So that's definitely better stuff than I thought for the job. Don't think I need to worry about that little kink in the tape there. Oh, it's going through that little crack there. So the, which one was the back side? That curves like that, so we can assume that the back of it is there. I don't think it really matters with the leader tape, but cut that off nice and square, or as best as I can get it. Toss that away, and let's try again. last time I held onto it from the other side, I think. Doesn't help getting your fingers on there, it kind of ruins the stickiness a little bit, but yeah, they've cut nicely. Last time I cut it a bit shorter because it was a bit wider in one patch, but I don't think I'll do that this time. So we get about half of it onto that bit and try and get it straight to the tape. Look, we've got a little bit hanging over the side there, not ideal. But I've got it the right way around, that's what matters. I might take a little bit of that off, that's a bit too long. Especially if it's going to stick that well. I'm trying to get the two faces joined together. Whoops, I messed it up a little bit. Got a little gap there which is no good. But anyway, the way this machine works, it's never likely to come in contact with the head anyway, I don't think. But there is a risk if you've got a sticky bit there. It'll stick to something, but that's why I'm just going to... Might even put some metho on there. I'm going to rub it all with my hands. And then we'll just go over it to try and remove any sticky stuff from the tape that's still my sellotape that's outside the main surface of the tape. Let that dry off. But what I can do is this leftover tape here. Now I've lost the end of it, haven't I? Probably. Oh, there it is. This is probably going to end up in a great big knot. That's why I should have really wound it up, but I don't want much of it anyway. And what I can do is put that in a cassette housing, standard compact cassette housing. Oh, that one I don't care if I pull it to bits. It's a Johnny Chester. It's actually got screws in it. Some of these cassette cases were sealed, glued together. Battery on my camera is about to run out. It's probably time I chuck this tape out. And if you're in the middle of a reel like this and you don't want to keep the tape, you just push that out. I don't care about the leader tape in this case, slide that little piece out. And again, just push that out. Undo the leader, slide the little bit off, and bingo, that goes in the rubbish. Okay, got the tape off the old reels, and it was the non-shiny side I want. The duller matte side without the TDK stuff written all over it. I probably should do that the other way. Get that on that reel and push this little plastic thing in at one end. Trying to get it where you want it is not so easy. Not that it has to be too critical, but it's best to try and get it lined up reasonably well. Been a while since I've done this. Come on. Not so easy to hold that tape in place. I forget what the best method is, but that should clip in. But it doesn't seem to want to. And now I've ripped the tape a bit. Maybe I need to hold that around a bit more and pull it around the other way nice and tight. Oh, come on. Slippery. So get one end in, that's no problem. It's getting the other one to clip in is the problem. There it is. Oh, and actually cut the tape off, that's a bonus. Now, I guess the next problem is I don't really want to put my fingers all over that tape. And I've got it all tangled up everywhere. So it may be easiest to get it in the tape in the cassette case. I guess the ideal thing here would be to join both ends to a reel, but I don't know where the other end is. Because I stupidly didn't make a note of where that was. I should have really, and this is just getting in knots now. I really should have wound it up. I guess in hindsight I should have wound it straight into a cassette case, would have been the smart way to do it. It's a bit like fencing wire and stuff, it gets a lot of loops in it. So I'm not sure it's where a biro or pencil comes in handy to wind these things. And there is a pen here, but of course never when you want it. I'm just thinking if I keep it flat here, at least keeps it kind of flat on the reel. I guess an even smarter way to do it would be to actually put the other half of the cassette on there, but of course that's going to pinch the damn tape. Okay, if I can get that out of that hole and then try and put the other half of the case on without crushing it, it catches. It has to catch. Now that should wind the tape onto the reel without it going to either side. So it actually is quite quick as long as I don't get any kinks in it. I've got all sorts of crunching that I've done to the tape, which is not good. It's definitely the right side going in. And here comes a great big knot. But thank God that goes reasonably quick. I was worried that was going to take a month to roll back on. And we've got another knot. This stuff loves to loop around itself and tie big knots in itself. Just like your extension cord or something. Amazing how it can tie knots in itself. God, we're already starting to fill that tape up a bit. Not sure how long, it doesn't actually say how long on these cassettes, these Grundig ones, how long they actually go for. I think I saw somewhere they might be around 45 minutes, but I mean, this is only part of one. It had a massive roll in the tape still. Bit of a mess, but not quite as disastrous as I thought it might have been. But yeah, now we're getting into these tighter bundles. It may be easier just to cut this off and throw it away rather than trying to undo all this. It's just amazing what it can tie itself into. Not doing it much good getting my hands all over it, but I don't think this format of tape's ever going to be one that anyone's going to really need to recover data off, basically. Get the recordings off, because it's just dictaphone stuff, so it's probably nothing interesting. And unless you damaged it just after someone recorded something on it, then chances are someone's transcribed it anyway. So I don't think there'd be much of a market for people trying to recover this format. So it's basically completely obsolete in theory. Now it's got that loop out, beautiful. So probably not much point wasting any time on it at all. But it'll be interesting to see. I might as well recover what I can of this tape, just for the hell of seeing. Nearly got it all in there now anyway. Just for the hell of seeing whether it can actually be done, played back, and whether something can be done with this stuff. That's just annoying. I'm going to cut that last knotty bit off. So all I need to do now is get this on the other reel and then thread it through the cassette housing properly. I'll just pull a length of that around. That's definitely the dull side out. Again. I'm getting the hang of that now. It's quite hard to push that on. This one didn't slice the tape off, unfortunately, so I'll just cut that off and toss it away. So it's a reasonable, maybe 15 minutes of tape there or something at normal cassette speed, but who knows what speed these dictaphones ran at. They may be faster, they may be slower. Looking at the amount of tape there, it probably runs at a higher speed. So So this is another problem without being able to get it into play mode. You can't even have any hope at know what RPM the thing runs at. It's just the fiddliness of trying to get this past all the right bits here now. I didn't think it was all that hard, but it is a bit fiddly to... Look at that little foam pad pushing out. I didn't realise these things were so fiddly. I'm going to use some pliers, because now this one refuses to go down the little slots, and of course now it's jumped off again. Don't remember it being this difficult to do, but it has been a while since I've done it. And try and get around that pulley. Oh, come on, that's it. So I've got that, everything but this other pulley, which I've got to put back in. And I'm going to have to pull that tape back a bit to do it, and it's guaranteed to want to come off something when I do. That's pretty right now, I think. Don't roll away. Thought that was in. Okay, we got it, I think. Let's get that reel in the right spot. And hopefully, well, I guess we can, since it's only one track, if it's the wrong way around or whatever, playing backwards, we can soon swap it back over. I'll be very interested to hear what it sounds like if there's something on it. It'd be really annoying if I did all that for a blank tape. That would be rather frustrating, but... Okay, so I've got this little mono cassette clock radio thing here that I fixed the other day. Easiest tape player to find.
Now the S wave is still prominent in lead 1 and in leads V5 and V6. Next slide. This cardiogram is taken from a child aged 5 years. Notice how the S wave has now disappeared from lead 1 and lead V5 and V6.
So that sounds like some sort of probably university lecture on something to do with children's hearts or something. So it's running fast. You probably could almost turn the motor down in one of these cassette players to get it down to the right speed.
However, T-wave inversion is still apparent in lead.
It's not too fast. So these things obviously run a bit slower. And the thought just occurred to me that I could, if I can get that thing to run at the right speed, and maybe disable the erase head if it's stuck in record mode. I don't know if it's record mode or play mode at the moment, but what I could do is just hook this. I've actually got a mono cassette player there, which was going to be one of the next things I was going to look at, an old National one. I could just hook the wires off the head in this thing, and just, if the motor's run at the right speed and we've got the head with the tape going past it, I should be able to hook it into just a normal compact cassette player tape head input. And that'd probably be enough to actually get audio off one of these. If you were desperate to get something off one of these tapes, then, you know, actually just putting the tape in another compact cassette case is enough to at least get the information off. It may not sound correct. You might not get the person's original voice off it if you wanted that, but you at least can get the information off that. You can soon type off that. Possibly you could put this, so I don't know if Audacity or something on the computer has a speed setting, but if you could put that into a software program with speed adjustment, then just recording it off a normal cassette player would be enough, and then you just change the pitch or whatever speed down. That would actually get you back digitally, but the old hardware way of doing it would be to actually hook this head into just a compact cassette player, which should have a similar preamp and equalisation and stuff. This may not have equalisation, like I believe a normal audio cassette has some sort of equalisation on it. But they all need it. I think it's to do with more with the way the magnetic particles are than like, say, a record player, where they alter the bass frequencies down so that you don't get great big groove variations on the record, or groove deviations. And so they basically cut the low frequencies down, I think, and then have to boost them back up once it comes off the record. I might as well solder that back in so it's all back together, although I didn't fix that little broken earth wire that was in there, but just put that back together so it's there and I know where it goes, in case I never touch this thing again for years or never ever again, in which case it won't matter if it's not even connected. But I think that might be a better option. I want to see what this now does with that contact closed. So we've got the light on. Just being careful not to touch anything live here. I've got the tape back together, so what happens when I put that in there with the tape, because it does seem to be able to detect whether the tape's in there or not. So that just keeps playing. Oh, I don't know, this is, oh, so this is, oh no, so it's loaded it and stopped. So there you go. So does the tape the second time somehow bring that? Oh, I'm still none the wiser, but that looks more like it's in a mode ready to record or play. That's what I'd more expect. It's like a beta VCR. When you put the tape in, it laces it up and waits for you to do something, which would be why that green light's on and that other light's off, because I can't imagine that other light's meant to run all the time. So we can fast forward, rewind, that goes back to the tape and it spits out. I wonder if that's some sort of dummy load or something, that light bulb, because that's what I would have expected more, is it comes on when the motor stalls or something. Well, the motor's not stalled there, or is it something to slow the, I don't know what it does, but I'm guessing this seems more like this is how it should operate. That makes more sense. You put the tape in, it laces up and waits for a command from your microphone. So I reckon that contact was actually faulty in this one. Now, is there a way to get this to eject? That's our erase thing. We've got two lights up this time. Oh, that, oh no, see, this is ejected. That's what I was worried would happen. It would eject with the tape still laced up. Not a very good idea. And there's no way that's coming out unless I wind it back manually. I have to carefully pull this back, and it's still, I've got to lift this thing up and get it to release our little end piece. It keeps going back into that slot. I guess that's what it's supposed to do. Now I've jammed it there. Now it's going into that slot. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I thought I might have found out how to eject it, but it's no good ejecting it if it hasn't unlaced it. So God knows how many different faults this thing has, or whether I'm using it the right way at all. Now it doesn't lace up when I put it in, but you've kind of got to get that thing to come up. It doesn't, so we're in the wrong mode or something. That's ejecting it in a way. Oh no, we've still got the piece hooked up. We've got our light on. Something's still running. The motor's going. Ooh. What's going on here? Something tells me that's not in the right working position, but maybe it is. Something seems to be humming louder than it should. So it's pulling the little thing up, it's looping into that mechanism, does that second loop up and stops. So fast forward now works, but it doesn't lock down like it did before. I guess that should just be left to run backwards until it hits the end and spits the tape out. Why that thing's now running? Oh, it's finding a position maybe, which makes sense. You'd think it would kind of reset to a particular spot maybe, which it wasn't doing before. So it's really ready to pull the tape, so it's what happens if I, maybe if I leave that in that mode, will it spit it out? Seemingly not. Well, that lamp's gone dim. So it seems unable. Something almost smells like I heated something up then and upset it. So this machine really isn't made for playing around with like a cassette player. You can, but yeah, that seems to find, oh, it goes back to the stop position, so it does find that. Something sounds a bit noisy there, but maybe it's just, you know, something's vibrating a bit. But yeah, my idea I think now might be to take that arm back off again, hook into the tape head, and just out of interest, I want to see if you can, if you wanted to get something off one of these machines, you could at least hook it into a standard cassette player and actually hear the machine itself play at the proper speed. Because this electronics is so complicated, such a mess of switches and relays and stuff. I don't think I'm ever going to work out. It turns it off. Don't think I'm ever going to work out how to hook to the audio out. I'm still not even sure what pin is the audio out on this thing. Possibly it did go up that microphone cable and played back on the little microphone piece itself. That's the only thing I can really think of. I would assume that these would not have a separate piece. They just have one handset piece, and this, you're not going to have like an external speaker, I wouldn't think, but maybe. And maybe they had a foot switch as well as a telephone adapter so you could record phone calls. That, I'm guessing, is probably the foot switch or something, but I'm not even sure about that. Actually, the other thing I was going to try is I'll shorten those pins out on that. What happens, I've covered them up now. Which pins was it? The top two? Oh yeah, the bottom two. Oh yeah, I can still get to them, I think. Not so easily, but I'd be interested to know what happens if I short those two pins out with the proper tape in it. Oh, this is still live, I better be careful. All I did was turn it off there, so that lulled me into a false sense of security. Got to always remember what you're touching is potentially going to give you a big shock, especially with those naked fuses and stuff there. So I've got the tape laced. What happens if I can get something in there and short? I think I used a multimeter probe before. Nothing. Well, there you go. I'm pretty sure I'm shorting those pins together and nothing's happening. I think it only made something click when I... Oh, actually I've got to eject the tape. And I had it in the other mode. I think I'll remove that tape before I... Oh, is it laced up? Yeah, it is laced. Now we don't seem to want to... Well, that's still locked in. Let's just let it do its thing. It's probably just going to reset. And then randomly it just makes a whole lot of noise. Is that, oh, probably because that's sitting down. No, it's that thing. So something hasn't moved that back up like it probably should. Oh, now I can't rewind. I've broken it. Yeah, so this is completely kaput. Interesting. So that should be that big idler down there, I think. So something in this mechanism again is out of whack. So it's got a million ways to go out of whack, this thing, it seems. Oh, the tape's actually not in, so that might be part of your issue. So we're not properly laced up here. Ah, so I hit that and it ejects. Okay, so that's in here now, it's loaded, so it's quite a crazy mechanism, this thing. Whether it's because I'm fiddling with it or it's just got random faults in it, I'm not totally sure. But it's massively overcomplicated for what it's supposed to do. But I guess if you had the older reel-to-reel type mechanism, the engineers are probably thinking, let's just update that. But meanwhile, Philips had come up with the simplicity of the compact cassette. Supposedly Philips made a similar tape to these as well. Just a single sort of sided cartridge like that for the same sort of dictation type equipment. So even Philips came up with a probably overly complicated design as well. but that's often how human progress happens. It's all simple in hindsight to look at things and go, why didn't they come up with a much easier system? Oh, didn't spit it out. You mongrel. Now that thing's hunting, looking for to lace up again, I think. It's going to stop there? No, it doesn't, so it must... Ah, it's that little lever thing. What's the... Ah, that's... So that little lever there, the tension of the tape on that, tells this thing that it's laced up. I'm starting to learn how this thing works. But why won't she spit it out? The damn pulley hasn't gone back down. I'm going to have to push it by hand. Yeah, so you can push that down, so that may be sticking or something. Still too tall, probably. Okay, now I know how to manually eject it as well. So that's lacing up correctly. And when the tension, I can just see as the tape, that switch lever thing reaches the tape, it shuts the contact and it stops. But why is that thing now operating when I'm doing that? Because this thing hasn't done its bit, I think. Oh, it's stopped now. Maybe that's this wire's getting in the way or something, could be. It could be something I've done. That's working. Now this, yeah, should drop that, so probably me having this silly cable here might be an issue. If I can find the correct place to put it. So this comes in, there's a little white plastic lever on this bit, and as soon as that touches the tape and pushes, it shuts the contacts. Now we've still got that issue. Why does that normally... It normally somehow releases itself. How did it do that before? Because this thing pulls on it. How did it release itself before? Now it's released itself. Oh, so it's got to swing back. That's when it hits that switch. I wonder if that's because that's just I've either done it too tight, or this bloody spring... it should be alright. Or maybe I've loosened the spring off and it's not pulling tight enough. Maybe I've got that too tight. Lots of maybes. So one option is to take a bit of pressure off this clip. I think for some reason this thing's just not... It's spat the bloody tape out now. This thing's truly crazy. So when I fast forward, that should release it. Yeah, and that's it, sprung back this time, so that's alright. I reckon I just had that clip too tight. I've still got the issue of I don't know how to get it into play mode. And there's no voltage at that connector, so it is pretty crazy. Well, I'm trying to get this thing into play mode. I just noticed if I hook A and C together with a resistor, I get this middle light comes on, and that relay, the big relay, is flicking. So I thought something must set that other relay. I thought I'd just use a 120 ohm resistor, and so that's the same. Yep, that's A and D. But nothing seems to... That one also flicks the light on and relay on, so there's a whole lot of them seem to do the same thing. And that one too. Which is A and I or something, J. Ooh. Ooh, something's making a funny noise. No idea what that is. So what's that middle line? That's the orange one. Again, not knowing what the light actually means, that could be record or could be anything. But it shows there must be some sort of voltage on this thing, even though it doesn't really measure any DC voltages there. I guess the other one I could play with is this telephone thing. Oh, actually, was I in the wrong one? No, I wasn't. You'd think something would get this thing to play. So I guess this telephone connector may have something to start it up. Okay, something clicking. What is that? Something's trying to go. Maybe that's that beeper thing, that buzzer. Oh, wait, what was going on there? When I put it in that position, that idler starts turning. I put it flat, it stops. So maybe it's just touching on something, or moving enough to touch on something. The motor, I guess, must just be gravity doing that. Damn, so I can't seem to get it into play mode. So I think I'm going to have to quit on this thing. But at least I worked out how to get that relay to click. But if it doesn't start the motor and stuff up, what am I missing? So we're laced and ready to go. Do I need to... shouldn't need to move it on or anything, should I? I don't think so. But who knows? Yeah, now it's not operating. Oh, there it is. So that's like part of the electrical signals operating. No idea what's making that noise. Yeah, I thought one of those was switching it earlier. That's the relay going silly. Maybe it's putting an AC voltage or something in it. But yeah, that's, I think, as far as I can go without wasting too much time on this thing. I've already wasted way too much time on this thing. Maybe it's a different set. I guess, have I tried all the combinations of... Or what does that pin? I guess if that's doing something to one pin, does that get it into start mode or something? Come on. Ooh. Something's making another weird noise. I mean, maybe there's some other combo of contacts here. Some of these, I thought all these ones at this end were the, what looked like the microphone input or something. Something clicked then, I thought. Nothing seems to start this thing into play mode. So yeah, I think I'll give up on that. Rip them off. Yeah, I just had the idea when the motor was running before, but I think that was because it wasn't going into the correct mode because those contacts were bent. But interesting anyway. We've got some sort of lecture material there still recorded on it. And I don't know if I've got something I can easily access. If you could turn a tape deck down enough, or like I say, you could probably record that onto the computer, even if just through a microphone or something, and use Audacity or something to slow it down. I may even be able to do that with this actual video footage, I guess. And possibly if I slow it down in the video editor, that may actually do the job. But anyway, thanks for watching.